the way we go today about describing the right technique for writing a cover letter is actually starting from the very origin of why do we need a cover letter, who do we write it for, and what kind of usage it actually should have in your effort to seek a job or an internship or a project or, let's say, any sort of employment. So I would say we can go to the next one, and then we'll see what comes next. Is just a reminder again, very quickly. Job searching is like a sport, so I'm here trying to be the role of a coach, because the point is that if you train for it and if you have the right coach, you can plan for success. It's like a sport, right? And you're not supposed to be good at it because you will not do it very often in your life. If you're very good at job hunting and finding and getting job, it means you're changing too often, right? Therefore, it's totally okay to have a technique to train when you need it. So that's what we do today. We go to the next one. Okay, so I think we discussed this already in quite some detail last time. So here, just a reminder. What we are going to use our cover letter for is not just to send it as, let's say, an accompanying document to your CV when you apply for open positions. The right and the best use of cover letter is actually an introduction of yourself to someone that doesn't know you, that has not read your CV, that does not plan to read your CV or any CV, but you want to capture his or her attention and basically make sure that they have a reason to pay attention to you. So why do we do that? Because the universe of available jobs, which is what we were trying to portray here in this green circle on the left, only 20% of the available jobs are actually publicized, right? A lot of other jobs are simply in the head of the recruiters because they have not just made it on time to a public job posting, because maybe the HR person still needs to provide some approvals. There are some procedures. I always get mad at my HR colleagues because whenever I need to recruit someone, it always takes ages between the moment I tell them I need someone and the moment that they actually publicize something, right? And what happens in between is that if I know someone that is good and that already, let's say, flagged they are available for me, guess what? I hire those people and I don't even need to publicize anything. So you want to be already on the radar of the possible hiring manager before anything goes public. And then there are other reasons why sometimes you don't see open job postings. It could be that simply the company wants to keep the information confidential. They don't want to show the competitors or to their clients that they are expanding in one market or that they actually need people in a certain area. So they do recruiting with, let's say, their pipeline of talents that already exist. And you have to make sure that you are on that pipeline. And you can only do it if you are proactively approaching them before there is anything publicized. There are many other reasons why, let's say, 80% of the jobs that are out there are not visible to you, but these are the main ones. So what happens is that if you focus only on the public job postings, you focus exactly on the same few jobs where everybody else is focusing because it's visible, right? So you see the universe of available talents itself, that's you and all the competing candidates that you have around you. They are all concentrating in this tiny space of the 20% publicized jobs. So whatever you do, when you send an application to something that is public, If it's the right job for you, by all means do it. I'm not saying you should not do it, but you should know that by the sheer fact that you're seeing something, then all the other people competing with you are seeing the same, and you're all shooting at the same target. So it gets a very crowded target. And also because of the way the job posting and hunting and seeking dynamics are happening today, you will be surrounded by a lot of people that are not qualified and not relevant at all for that job. So you should be conscious that you are going to speak to a recruiter, or at least you are going to send something to a recruiter that is already frustrated because 9 out of 10 applications that they receive are not relevant. So you can do that, and from time to time it will work, but it might not be the majority of the times. If you go to the next one, we explain a bit better also. Well, we can skip this one, of course. If you like what you hear, let's say, speak about it, talk about it, because I'd like to help as many people as possible, and I can only reach as many as feasible via webinar. So that's my only ask to you. All the rest you hear is for free. But if you go to the next, basically, I wanted to talk to you about the 4 ways of getting a job, or say seeking and getting a job. 2 of them are active, 2 of them are passive. And normally you move from the number 1 to the number 2, and then 3 and 4 as you grow more experienced and more senior in your career. But let's say the first active way of getting a job is to upload a CV onto an ATS, which is this applicant tracking system, which means either a LinkedIn post, but it could be simply the career portal of any company, right? So that's the most basic things that everybody would do. But the best thing is, or let's say a better thing would go to another active way of seeking jobs, which is step number 2, which would be like stretch your own network. You can ask the people you know in companies that you would like to work for. And if you don't know anyone in the target company that you have, that's when you need a cover letter. That's when you need to approach them proactively. Like these are active ways. Then there are also passive ways, like if you have made a name for yourself, but not necessarily, but at least if you have a good LinkedIn profile, and if you have, let's say, created a network where you are on the talent pipeline of several people, that already helps you to put you on the map of the headhunters. So this would be the step number 3. So headhunters is actually a bit of a gruesome name of simply recruiters that work for third-party companies, right? So they would receive normally the mandate from companies to go and look for talents to recruit at different levels of the hierarchy. Could be an entry level at the very basic, or even more senior roles. And they would speak to people in the sector. They would for sure spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, and they might approach you, right, without you having doing anything. So this is why it's relatively passive. For that, you need a good personal branding online. So that's the LinkedIn, and maybe other, let's say, ancillary media. Or again, you have created a name for yourself because you know people, so you made a network. And then step number 4 will be also passive, and then you might have someone from inside the company that is your target simply approaching you saying, we want you to work here, right? Of my, let's say, 6 different hirings, I have to say, I never got the job because I did step number 1. It always worked because of 2 or 3 or 4. And even if I did send a CV via an online portal, it never worked unless I actually reached out directly to the person that was hiring, saying, "Hello, I'm here. I've sent a CV to you. And by the way, this is why I've done it. And this is why I think you should read it." Right. And other than that, I think I was lucky enough to be headhunted several times. So I was more like passively recruited. But I did send quite some applications online myself. But again, it was always a frustrating experience unless I did something to reinforce it, which is reach out to the people with the right message, which is something that we detail a bit later in the next minutes. So if we go to the next one, we will see also some data. So, and this is something we've spoken about also last time. So if we look at the different methods of searching for jobs, the active and the passive ways. On the active side, if you upload a CV via an applicant tracking system, again, the career portal, statistically in the Western world, so let's say Europe and the US, if you apply for a multinational where there is, let's say, a certain attractiveness of them as an employer. So you are in a crowded space, as we said before. So you can expect, on average, that your CV will be read only 3% of the time, right? So you need to send a hell of a lot of CVs for you to be considered. And being read, it does not mean that you are called for an interview, right? So there the percentage goes way lower, right? So much better is when you take things under your control and you reach out proactively to people. So this is what we said is stretching your network. So ask the people you know, or find out the people that are relevant for your job and reach out to them even if you don't know them, right? And it turns out that, again, here statistically, roles that are assigned at the more junior level, so entry level, and then let's say analyst, or let's say the bottom of the hierarchy of an organization where you, by definition, need to enter to start going up the ladder. Around 25% of these jobs are given to people that do not apply, but because they are, for one reason or the other, on the famous talent pipeline I was speaking about, because the future boss knows them because either they had some past experience together, or indeed the candidate waved the hand and made himself or herself noticed even before there was a job opening. So I give you an example of how this works. So not long time ago, I applied for a job at let's say, highly reputable banking institution, and they had an opening for a senior role, which is rare in the public. So I sent my CV there. So I went into the applicant tracking system, but I knew that this was not going to be sufficient. So what I did is I also tracked down who was the recruiter looking at filling this position, and who was the hiring manager, because it's not the same thing, right? Sometimes in very big organizations, you have a recruiter that works in HR that does the job of collecting CVs, screening candidates for, let's say, the work in a team, and the hiring manager is the leader of that team. That's like a concrete business function. Could be marketing, could be sales, could be product management, whatever. But the hiring manager is the person that has the most at stake. They are the one that need the talent to expand the team, to acquire a certain skill, and so on. So they are the ones that are the most interested in seeing candidates, but they only see them after there's been some sort of gatekeeping and screening from the recruiter. So what I did, once I found out the right person, of course, I had to spend some time doing the research, understanding what is this area and who is heading that area. This person was quite visible at conferences, left a lot of LinkedIn posts and so on. So I could identify very clearly. So I wrote to this person. These days it's also not difficult to find out the email of people that work in companies, right? Because the syntax of the email address is something that is relatively easy to figure out. So after having sent my CV on the career portal, which was a necessary step, I reached out bilaterally via email to the hiring manager and said, hey, I used a certain format and technique, which we speak about later. But so I sent a bit of a cover letter, personalized one, saying, here I am. I know who you are, and I know that you're looking for someone. And this is what I think I can offer you. And this is why I think we should talk. So fast forward 1 week, I received, listen to this, an automatic rejection from the applicant tracking system, basically saying, dear Mr. Kavenaghi, thank you for applying. Unfortunately, we regret to tell you, you need to remember this sentence because you will read it very often. We regret to tell you that we have decided to pursue other candidates and basically see you next time type of thing. Automatic message. I was not concerned because I was expecting that. That's normally the result you get from career portals. 10 days later, I get a reply to my email directly from the hiring manager and says, oh, Eugenio, thanks for writing to me. We need to talk, right? So for some reason, my application that was also complete of CV and cover letter that went through the career portal was filtered out, either automatically or by someone, but I suspect automatically. And that's the problem, because the applicant tracking systems, they are set up to push people out of the pipeline of talents, let's say, because there are too many. They are not designed to search and find the right and the best ones, right? But then what happens is that because they are focused on screening out as many people as possible that have any little tiny parameter that doesn't fit a very strict schedule of criteria, then a machine was filtering myself out, right? I'm almost sure it was not a human, it was a machine, not talking to me, but let's say reading text, reading numbers, making whatever valuations that they had programmed to be doing, and then pushing me out. But then my email instead was a personalized message to one precise person. My email got read, and my email was good. And that's what caused me then to go through interviews. Right. So is there a question? Sorry, I hear some noise. Okay. Feel free to ask if you
I
have
think
to,
it's
but
just a mistake. I
no
will
problem.
mute the student.
No, it's
Sorry.
okay. No problem.
Okay.
So that's why we're talking today about writing cover letters and targeting the right people. This is going to make a huge difference versus other candidates that are going instead just to use the career portals. So you can also write cover letters to headhunters. And let's say if you don't have options, if you're just starting out, it's okay for you to basically approach professional recruiting firms that are mandated by actual companies to look for people. So basically, They can act as multiplier, right? Because headhunters, they can work for company A, B, and C. So if you have a good profile and if you have a good cover letter, they might be able to position you uh, with all of these other companies they are speaking to. So basically, you make one introduction to one person that can act a bit as a multiplier, like an amplifier of your network. You could do that. But a couple of caveats here. Remember that headhunters, they actually work for companies. They don't work for individuals, right? So it's good for them to collect good CVs from good people, because then when they get the mandate to search for companies, they already have a roster of people they can show. But don't expect miracles out of that, right? They are not out in the market, let's say, actively seeking employment for you, because they are get paid by companies. So they wait first to get a mandate from a certain company, and then you have to be lucky somehow that what you have is matching what they're looking for. But headhunters are a great source for market intelligence. They will tell you which companies have hired recently and maybe are now saturated, which are the ones that are instead looking, what are the main trends and reasons for companies to go out and look for talents. They can get all of this info, and and they can pass them on to you if you ask the right questions, right? Um, if you let's say, if you make a good impression, that's very good. So you create reputation for yourself, again, with someone that can amplify your network. um, and best is if you find someone that is actually a specialist in the sector where you want to go, because there are many recruiters that are basically working for everyone, and all they do is just employ themselves an army of people that search LinkedIn for all different sort of roles for all different sort of sectors. But the really good recruiters, or let's say headhunters, are the ones that are specialized in a niche. So either IT or R&D for pharma companies and so on. So they know exactly what is needed from the side of the companies, and they know exactly what kind of skills and requirements students have from a certain category of from a certain precise institution, and therefore what is the best path to go into which company. So if you have a kind of an idea of which sector you want to work for, if I were you, I would look for headhunters or external recruiting firms that are focused and specialized in that sector. And they will do all these things for you. Will give you market intelligence, and they will amplify the network and so on. So if we go to the next one, we explain a little bit the technique of the opportunity funnel. So we'll try to go as fast as possible through this, because then we want to show the framework of the cover letter. But this is the iterative process. It works a bit like a loop. This is why I always recommend to students or to job seekers, if you want to ask for internships or jobs and so on, you should go through all these steps and then repeat them regularly. So first step is assess your requirements, or reassess them in case you need to change something. Like, so what is that you want? Do you want a company next door? You want a company abroad, a big one, a small one that is going to push you individually and is very competitive, or one where you create a team spirit and you might work there for the next 20 years. There are many different, let's say, criteria, and you should know all of them, right? You should do a bit of a soul searching inside yourself first to understand whom to target. After that, so once you know what you want, you should define your targets. So after all these preferences that you have for your type of jobs, you should define which kind of companies you want to work for. You should have at least, my recommendation, of at least 30 target companies, 30, right? Why is that? We speak about it a bit later, but because it will take you around 2 weeks to address all of these 30 companies. And if it doesn't work, then you have the next cycle of 2 weeks where you should reassess the requirements, change your targets, have another list, and go after that, right? But normally, if you start with 30 and if you do the right things and if you send the right messages to these 30, you should actually land at least interviews. And then you have to be good at interviews, but that's for another session. Once you know your target companies, you should try to map the right people and the organizations there, right? So here you need to find the people that are going to give you jobs and that are working in these companies. And we talk later a little bit about which kind of people is relevant for you. But then once you know whom to target, it's a bit like in my story when I went after the hiring manager, then you should send messages to them and start an exchange. And then if it goes well, some of them will reply, some of them will offer you an interview, and then you go to interviews. And then you become better at interviews while you do them, actually. The first might not work, but you have to think of it again as a sport, right? It's very rare that your first shot, you hit the target. Your first interview might not be great, but you have to remember the first interview for you is a training to become better next time you do a second interview with another company, because by doing interviews you acquire a lot of information as well. So this makes you perform a lot better on the second one, right? So don't be frustrated if you don't succeed in the first one, because your target is not to get the job in the first one. The target is to get better so that you can get the job at the second, third, or fourth one. So let's go a bit further to describe a little bit so some let's say basic operating principles for this opportunity funnel. So you should be patient, right? Because again, here you don't eat the fruits on the day you plant the tree, right? So it all takes some time. So if you want, for example, to find an internship for summer 2025, you should start now with the opportunity funnel, 100%, right? I know many stories, I can tell many stories of people that asked me for let's say, suggestions. They were looking for jobs and they were asking me for introductions to people relevant to them and so on. And then I said, okay, no problem, I help you, I'll do it. And then what happens regularly is that the first 2 or 3 months go by with, let's say, exchanges, introductions, and so on that do not bring anything. Like people say, yeah, I don't have anything to offer you, I don't have a job, or like your profile is not the right one for me, and so on. And then by magic, regularly 5 or 6 months down the line, some of these contacts come back and say, oh, I remember we spoke 6 months ago, and at that time I didn't have a job, but I have it now, so let's speak, right? Or maybe, yeah, I remember you, I don't have, I still don't have a job for you, but my colleague here is hiring, and you might want to talk to him, and so on. So you have to play the long game here, right? Again, be patient with the results. You have to be impatient with your actions instead, right? So you should be able to go all these steps I mentioned. So define the targets, find the people, send the messages, and repeat until you got the results. So on average, 1 out of 7 of messages that you send following these criteria will result in an interview, which is very good, which is a statistical average way better than what I told you of sending a CV via an applicant tracking system and having 3% of them being read at all by someone, right? So many of you now are thinking, oh my God, I'm going to send messages to people that do not know me. Is that not too invasive? Like, is it not too nasty to them? Like, will I be annoying to them? Reality is that no, uh, because hiring managers always want to have a pipeline of warm talent. So, and this pipeline can never be warm enough and can never be long enough. So I, as a hiring manager, would always welcome people raising their hands and saying, I know who you are. I like what you do. I would like to come and work for you. Perfect. I normally save all these applications I get spontaneously. I save them somewhere. It's my pipeline. It's useful. I might not have the time to answer to the people, and I don't think it's necessary for me to answer to all of them, but it doesn't mean I'm getting pissed off because someone actually it's a recognition of the fact that what I'm doing for the company I'm working for resonate good with people that are they have some skills and that are looking for employment. So it's normally good acknowledgement, and a good, let's say, boss or a good leader would always welcome spontaneous applications. Now, if you write to someone, you can get three sort of reactions. You can get a yes, you can get a no, or you can get simply like nothing, like no reaction. So if you get a yes, meaning, oh, I'm interested, let's talk, perfect. That's exactly what you're looking for. So God bless you, you go ahead. If you get a no, that's also very good because at least you got enough attention from the person to move them to answer to you and say, I'm sorry, I don't have anything for you. But that's great because then the communication channel is open, and then it means you can get back to the person and say, thank you very much for bothering reading and answering. Uh, First of all, ask permission of going back to them maybe in 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, whatever, just to check again because things move, right? Companies go in a recession, then go in expansion, and so on. So say, okay, thank you. So if you don't mind, I'll check again in 90 days. And do you know someone instead that you think I should talk to because they have instead maybe something interesting for me? Right? Use that as a launch pad to go to the next level of networking, right? So a no is great because at least there is a reaction. If there is no reaction, nothing bad, right? Again, it would be maybe people like me that receive CVs, they like them, they save them, but I have no time to reply, right? And it's a data point. So if you get too many messages that go in the black hole without any reply, it means that something is to be adjusted. Maybe you need to change the type of target companies. Maybe you need to change the type of message you're sending, or you might need to change something in the CV, right? So when you send, you are already one step ahead because you are going to collect the data point, either a yes or a no, or if it's a no reply, that's also going to help you because it means you need to change something. And if you have too many of them, then you need to change a lot. So, and now we can go to the next one. So, again, here, so just to reiterate and reinforce, the victory here is in sending the message, right? Because again, even if you don't send a reply, you have a data point. And you do not need to spend any time chasing people, right? That's not going to bring you any good. So if you send an email and no answer, what you can do 1 week later is to write to the same person using another media channel, for example, LinkedIn. And if you have no reply to that, just leave it at that. That's it. It's okay. The person has either registered you or not, but doesn't matter. Focus instead of finding the next target person and write to the next person. So focus on having many balls in the air. Keep feeding the funnel with target companies, target people, right messages, and keep doing that until you have signed an employment contract. Don't stop doing it just because you're having interviews. Don't stop doing that just because the company told you that they want to hire you. Because again, it happened to me that they told me that they wanted to hire me, and then at the end, they didn't because of some stupid hiccup that they had organizationally inside. Multinationals are very hairy, complicated organizations. So keep feeding the funnel and have more and more opportunities coming at you until you have signed up with your hand and your ink on an actual contract. So if we go to the next one, I think we start going into the meat. So I also have templates for all of this. So if you want, you can ask me and I will send it to you. But there is a requirement list. So there are 12 things that you could look at to define your requirements for an employer, to make you understand which companies you want to target. I will not spend too much time on that because, again, you can ask for a template and you get it from me. Just maybe to highlight two things. People always leave an organization because of these two factors, contribution and growth. So you want an organization where you know that you are making a contribution, like whether it makes a difference for them or not, whether that day you wake up and show up in the office or not. Right? If you have the feeling you're doing something useless, you will quit. So understand what is that you can contribute to which kind of organization and focus on those. And second, growth. You want an organization that helps you to grow, right? So whatever you do, you need to be able to have a goal in front of you that you can reach inside the organization, because so the organization needs to be able to promote you from within and have enough opportunities for that. So I will go to the next slide. And then again, we talked about this also last time, so I will not spend too much time on how you can identify the right target for you. But again, think in terms of what type of industry is interesting for you, what type of role you want to play in companies in that industry. Is it R&D? Is it sales? Is it administration? Whatever. Think whether you would like to work more in a big or in a small company. Big companies give you a lot of opportunities, but you will move slowly and seeing only a little bit of the process. Small companies are smaller, will give you visibility on the end-to-end value creation of the company, let's say, and you can make career faster, but you hit the ceiling much faster as well because they're smaller. And location, where you want to be. Like, are you open to go abroad, other city, other country, or you want to stay there? You can look at a couple of things. So you can look at the lists are very good. There are very good lists you can download, like of the fastest growing companies. They are normally the ones that hire a lot because, of course, they're growing, so they need talent. There is the list of the great place to work. There are different variations of that, but you can look at that. You can look at job portals like Indeed that give you an idea of which are the companies that are hiring now. You could see patterns there, like what are, like, as there are now a lot of banks hiring or a lot of automotive companies, or not going to be the case, or IT companies or so on. So it will give you a bit of a view of the market without the necessity for you to apply for those jobs, because as I said, that your chances are not very high, but will give you a feeling of where is the market moving. You can look at Glassdoor and so other, let's say, aggregators of job openings. If we go to the next one, then important is that once you have the target company, you need to find the target people. Now, you need to do a bit of a mapping of the organizations of these companies. You need to understand who is going to give you a job in there, right? So there are uh, 3 or 4, maybe 5 types of people you can identify inside the company. And these days, using Google or using LinkedIn, it's very easy. And I tell you later a little bit how to do it, but in terms of types of people. So you can go, of course, you could start from the people that you know that work in that company. So write to them, talk to them, ask them who is hiring, like what is the best way to go in. Can you make an introduction? That's your best bet, obviously. The second best person, and it's going to be the majority of the cases because you don't always know people that work in your target companies, right? Will be go for the bosses. So look for team heads, department heads, director of something, head of something, etc. Right? Look for people that have these titles, or maybe look for people that have posted jobs on LinkedIn or reposted jobs, because normally they are the ones that repost because they are the hiring manager. So they are interested in broadcasting what their HR is making public on the career portals, right? Other relevant people would be the peers of those bosses, right? So team heads that work in teams that are working next to those teams, right? Maybe it's sales head of a different region rather than marketing head of another product rather than the product you are targeting. So try to see a little bit who is working alongside at the same hierarchical level of the organization, and that can also become for you an entry point into the organization. Then another option would be to write to team members of the team you want to join. They are good. They can expand your network. They can help you get some information, but they're not the ones that will have a job for you. So it's a bit of a subordinated priority. And you can write to recruiters, of course. There are people that are professional recruiters that work full time inside the company to bring talents in. Of course, you can write to them. But that's less effective than writing to the actual bosses or hiring managers, because recruiters will only pay attention to you if they have at the moment a search that is impacting exactly the type of role and department that you're targeting. If not, they are busy actually searching other types of people and they might not necessarily pay attention to you. So your best bet is the team head of the team where you want to work. You can find these people easily on LinkedIn. Now, if you do too many searches on LinkedIn, at some point you will be blocked by the system. We say you get sent to the LinkedIn jail, like unless you pay the premium fee, which is I think it's 89 euros a month these days. There are only a limited number of searches you can do every week. So, but these days you can search a lot via Google as well. You will find, all you need to find is the name of the people, right? And you can do a Boolean search, just go for a company name plus head of marketing or head of whatever product, plus maybe the location, and you should be able to find from Google. And there is no blockage in Google, right? So there you can find the name of the person, and then you can find the email of the person. That's easy. There are different websites that give you emails of precise individuals. The last one I found that works very well is called apollo.io. But these websites, they change all the time. So I bet you can find the email address of at least one other person working for that company, and then you will know how to write the email of your target, because it's normally is 90% of the cases is name.surname@company.com, but you will find what is the right email syntax. It should not be an issue to find. So, and then you need to send a message. So now we come finally to how to write a cover letter, right? Now that you understand the usage of that. If we go to the next slide, we explain what should the message contain, right? So first of all, the message needs to be personalized, right? I said you're gonna have a list of 30 companies and you want to write to 2 to 3 people for every company. So you're gonna write a lot of messages, right? And you cannot send the same message to everyone. So it needs to be a personalized message. It needs to be concise, but it needs to contain 7 main steps. And we go in a second in the details, but the 7 steps are, you should say, of course, who you are, why you have decided to write to this person, be precise saying what you want, show that you did your homework, you did some research, you have to enter some information that makes the person understand that you are not, that the company is not one of the hundreds that you are targeting, but one of on the short list that you have researched. Say what you have to offer, and then of course thank you for whatever help you can receive, and then define what are the next steps. In this sequence, there are, let's say, many of these steps can be more or less standardized, but there are 2 steps that are highly personal, and they are the ones that will trigger a reply because they are customized per person, which is explain why you chose the person, exactly that person, and the homework you've done on the company to explain what is that you noticed that triggered your interest. Now, let's go to the next slide because this is becoming now very tactical. And this is basically what you need to be able to write a cover letter or introduction message that is going to make the difference for you. Is that this one that is going to trigger 1 out of 7 an interview, right? So step number 1, say who you are. So of course, say your name, say what is your descriptor. So are you a business analyst? Are you a math graduate? Are you an ex IT intern? Whatever, right? Ideally, state also here whatever connection you might have to this person, right? Maybe you have worked with a colleague of this person. Maybe you know someone that has gone to work in the company of this person. Maybe you study in the same university. Maybe he has been at the conference that you have followed virtually or physically. Like say something that builds a little bit of rapport or connectivity with this person after you have explained who you are. Then say, step 2, why you chose them, right? The best reason for them to choose someone is that you have been recommended, was like someone recommended you to talk to this person that you are now addressing, right? So the person feels a bit like flattered. Say, okay, I have a good reputation in the market. People are talking about me, and they believe I also have, let's say, power and influence that I can bring people inside the organization. People like to hear that, right? But maybe you don't have someone that is recommending them. So again, try to find anything else. These days, people leave a lot of let's say tracks online, so you can see maybe they did a public speech somewhere, maybe they gave an interview somewhere, maybe they published something, maybe they've just been present in some career fair or so on. maybe they just wrote a post on LinkedIn that was interesting. Maybe they liked a post that is interesting. So anything where you say there is a common interest, I've seen you've done these or written these or somehow you manifested in some area that is the same of your interest as well. So that explains why you're picking this person and precisely this and not his neighbor, for example. So here you need to explain what you want, right? So step number 3 is, are you seeking an internship? Are you seeking for a job? Or maybe it's too early and you just want to get to know the company and say, can you speak to the person just to understand if the company is good for you to work for? Or maybe the person can introduce you to someone that would have the time to talk to you about the company. So, but in most of the cases, you would be looking for jobs. Like, so just explain, I'm looking for employment, say whether it is first time or if you have done already something already in the area. Then the step number 4 would be the research you have done, right? So show you've done the homework on the company. So saying that you bumped into them because you were looking for, let's imagine it's an IT company, say you have big passion for IT, and particularly in the area of language model, data mining, AI, whatever, and you notice that the company recently did a breakthrough in this area or started a project or launched a product or say did something that makes you believe this company is great at this specific interest that you have, and therefore it's that triggered this need from you to approach them because you want to work for them, right? Then you need to transition into step number 5. So what are you offering to them? So here you need to basically give in a very compact form the summary of your career profile from your CV. So say, what are the skills that you have? You studied something relevant, or you have experience because you have worked in an internship in the sector, so you know a little bit the market, or you've done an assignment at university that entailed a research on that sector, and therefore you have knowledge that is useful to them, right? So all of this, and so that the person needs to understand that you are going to be useful to them. So explaining which forms they can be using you. And then, of course, the number 6, you can thank them for whatever they will do for you, and then ask for a next step. So ask like, can we please have a call, or can we have a meeting if they are not far away, or can you please just reply with a recommended person to speak to, and so on. So just be clear what you need as a conclusion, right? And if you go to the next slide, there is one sample message that you can have, right? And there are 2 of them actually, with a job opening or without a job opening. So this is all in the material. And maybe what you can do, Teresa, because we are almost out of time, if you can just go to the last slide, you see my contacts. So for those who are interested in the templates of the cover letter and so on, just send me an email. You see here my email address, eugenio.cavenaghi@career-jumps.com, right? If you have downloaded my CV template last time in this via this web page, which is career-jumps.com/ZSEM, right? Because we have one page precisely dedicated to the students of the Zagreb school. And you can also access that via the QR code here, right? So if you do that, you register with your email, you get the template, and then you have my email address, and then you can ask me anything else. Just write to me, and I can send you whatever you like and whatever you need. So I would stop it here. We have 6 o'clock on the dot, but I have time for questions if anyone has any. Or Teresa, if you want, you start with your question.
So, what would you suggest in case of not getting any answer on CV or cover letter, and when that situation is occurring very often? So, my question is how to stay motivated and not get frustrated easily, because I think that's really often the case, that students are expecting
Yes.
the answer and they are a little bit maybe impatient. I mean, I was impatient as well. So do you have
Yes.
any suggestion for that case?
Yeah, absolutely. So focus on the things you can control and have an action plan. So you cannot control people replying to you or not. That's obviously not in your hands. You cannot control hiring managers having attention to you or even having jobs available. That can happen. So, but what you can control is you finding the right companies, the right people, and sending out messages. So you should focus on that. And you should see that a little bit like collecting points. So before you get a yes, meaning a job, you should collect 20 no's at least. So go send, and collect no. Every no you collect, you should go like, hooray, I am one no closer to my goal of 20. And then when you reach 20, if you normally should get a yes by then. So if you don't get a yes by then it means you have to fix your opportunity funnel. That maybe you are targeting a sector or let's say a category of companies where you don't have a match of your skills. So again, it's not a defeat. It's no reason to be frustrated. It's just like it's a signal from the market that you need to change things. So take action on that. Right. So again, and that is something in your control. So maybe switch completely the focus. So that's how I ended up in banking as well. Although I was working in consumer goods, and then I thought my next step would have been in an IT business process outsourcing company. And I started targeting them. And then I realized I was having a lot of no's or very cold reactions. And I knew I could not change that. But what I could change was my whole setup of the opportunity funnel. And then I moved my target to banking. And then luckily, after one iteration, I got there, right? So use all the input or lack of input that you get from this activity as an opportunity to get better in focus. And at some point, you'll find the right focus, and then you'll go laser sharp and you'll find what is good for you.
So basically, not getting a feedback is also a feedback.
Exactly. Keep track of that, right? Make sure. So you should have a plan. So ideally 20 messages within 2 weeks. We should be able to write 20 to 30 messages. So keep track of those, and then if at the end of the 2 weeks you have like a blank space on the reply, then you know you have to change something. Yeah.